Today I wanted to talk about how do you say no without feeling guilty and develop strong boundaries as an empath, right? And I feel somewhat qualified to talk about it because I was an empath my whole life. I could feel everything around me as though it were part of me, and I had no sense of self. I had no self-esteem, I had no confidence, I had no understanding of who I was, what I wanted, or any kind of concept of the fact that I was even worthy to have what I wanted. So, but I think over time I learned. So, I think we can start by defining a boundary, right? When I say have boundaries, what does that mean? Well, I think essentially having boundaries is what will allow you to say no. Because saying no without feeling guilty means you have boundaries and you are there for yourself. So that means essentially you are able to stand by your own side. So, in my opinion, boundary is a sense of self. It's an understanding of who you are and the ability to stand by your own side no matter what happens, right? No matter what someone else says, does, or wants from you. If you have boundaries, strong boundaries, even if you're an empath and you can feel them, you'll say no because this is your boundaries, right? So I think it starts with identifying your boundaries, right? What are they? How do you find your own sense of self? How do you find your own container for your feelings, right? So I think there is a few things you can do. The first is simply observe your emotions that arise. Every time you get angry, frustrated, or annoyed at something, it's a signal that someone is trying to cross your boundary, right? And then you can kind of identify what it is and decide what to do with it. Another way would be to use meditation and introspection to ask yourself questions. But even before that, there's different types of boundaries you can have. There's emotional, mental, physical, and each of them are just as important, right? So physical would be your physical space, your body. How comfortable are you with someone else being in your space or touching your body, right? That's a kind of boundary too. Another boundary would be mental, meaning like your language that people use or they encourage you to use. I think it's a kind of boundary as well. The words that you hear and that you are encouraged to speak as well. And the feelings. How do you feel within your own body, your behavior, and the treatment that other people give you? Each of those can be a boundary in and of itself that if you get triggered with anger or frustration, it's telling you that someone else is doing something that you're not okay with. So it's an opportunity for you to establish that boundary and to strengthen it, right? So after you identify your boundaries, step number 2 would be to know that you deserve to have what you want and you deserve to have your boundaries respected. In other words, you deserve to have boundaries, meaning that you are worthy, right? That's step number 2. And why do I say that? Because oftentimes I might know what I want, but if I don't feel like I deserve it on some kind of subconscious level, I will simply feel uncomfortable doing it. I think that's where guilt comes from, right? Oftentimes when we feel guilty, it's because we do something, but we don't feel like we deserve to do it, right? I think at least for me in my life, every time I wanted to do something, but I didn't feel like I deserved to have it, I would start to feel guilty. And I was like, well, why am I feeling guilty? And I would always ask myself, and I couldn't never understand, why do I feel guilty, right? What is that guilt? And I found that guilt is an abandonment of yourself, which makes sense to me. If you feel guilty, it's because part of you feels unworthy, right? So that's why I think it's very important to find within yourself that worth. To internalize understanding that you deserve to exist as yourself, right? The boundaries you want to have, the boundaries that you do have or will go to establish are meant to be there. You're meant to have every feeling you're having because that up there communicates with us through feeling. So essentially, honor your feelings. Step number 3, after you have identified your boundaries and internalize that, yes, I deserve to have my needs met, right? Have your needs met. Number 3 is actually expressing your needs and having them met. Whether it means you meeting your own needs or you communicating to someone else what it is that you need. And this can be a tricky business because as an empath, you still feel everything around you. It's like it's kind of almost like fake it till you make it, because oftentimes it's an everyday struggle, okay? I think it's something you have to do every day. It's like a mental muscle, because you feel the other person. So essentially, you're aware of your own self, and you can still be aware of someone else. But if you're aware of yourself and you actually understand that you and them are equal, and you are aware of yourself first, which means you are responsible for your own boundaries. They are responsible for their own boundaries. So once you can internalize that, it becomes easier. And sometimes I still struggle with that too, because I'm like, well, but this person that, and that person this, but I'm like, you know what? No, this is my boundary, and this is what I need right now. And it's okay. You have needs, and you need what you need. After you express it, I actually haven't heard this talked about much, but I think it's important to be open to listening. Meaning that sometimes people have their own boundaries too, but after you express yours, you don't know the reaction you're going to get. So I think what I mean by being open to listen is that you stand by your own side, right? You establish your boundary anyways, but you are open to listen to another person's perspective. Now, that doesn't mean internalize it. That doesn't mean accept it as true. It simply means you cannot control whatever they're going to do. So that's okay. What's important sometimes is just expressing it, because when you do, you're standing by your own side. That feeling of, I am here for myself. I am here for myself, and I will stand by my own side and respect my own feelings. That part of you, I think it's a very powerful thing to have, because when you are always by your own side, everywhere you go and everyone you come in contact with, people come and go, but you are with yourself for the rest of your life. So if you can learn to be by your own side, by honoring your feelings, by the same thing, right? You first identify what it is, you then accept the fact that this is what it is, and I deserve to have my feelings met. You express that, right? And through expressing and being open to listen, you stand by your own side. Because I think the willingness to listen allows you to strengthen the fact that you're there for your own needs, and you can kind of balance with the other person, but the most important thing is honoring your feelings. So yeah, I hope that makes some sense, and if you are an empath, then just know that it's not a curse, it's a gift. If you learn how to fine-tune your abilities, you can be able to feel yourself, feel the other person, and understand how to navigate the situation so that both of your needs are met, and so that you don't feel so out of control. You can have control. In fact, you have power that you may not even be aware of having yet. So yeah, I hope that made some sense, and I hope that you also know that this is not something you can just magically manifest, okay? This is something that takes work. Having your own boundaries and standing by your own side is an everyday practice. It's something that you have to set your mind to. You have to set your mind every day that today I will be by my side, and I will respect my feelings and stay in tune to them. And I hope that today, at least for one day, you can decide that today, yes, today I will stand by my own side, and I will honor my feelings, because I deserve to have my needs met. Because again, if you didn't deserve to exist, you wouldn't exist.